What's going on, guys? Sam Adams, Greg Miller of Kinda Funny Games Daily, here with you for a show on October the 31st. That's right, it is Halloween, and welcome to today's show. And of course, I am joined by the busiest lady in the business, Andrea Renee. Just in case you didn't see it. But yes, seriously, happy Halloween to everybody at Kinda Funny Games Daily, on top of everybody else that might be watching the show for the first time. Again, welcome, and this is a daily gaming news show where I bring you the hottest gaming news from around the industry, and I bundle it in one tight, neat little package, and occasionally we do, in fact, have some fun. But of course, today I am Greg Miller of Kinda Funny Games. They do some fantastic work over there on Kinda Funny Games Daily, bringing you a show similar to this one, where they bundle in the hottest gaming news of the day into one tight, neat little package as well. And of course, there's always a good time over there. However, I thought I would go ahead and sport my best Greg Miller impression, and today we're having just that. And of course, I did have to break out the Siamese twin pumpkin mug, because when else is this thing actually going to be useful? However, this does bring me to a point that I did want to make. Since I am dressing up as Greg Miller, I might as well play the part. MeUndies, have you? No, I'm just kidding. But there is going to be an Extra Life fundraising opportunity here if you did want to take part this coming Saturday. Now, of course, this Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific time over on twitch.tv/kindafunnygames, I believe is where that can be found. You, yes, you, can watch them be live for 24 hours straight, doing various things, like Nick Scarpino dancing in a very strange, seductive way, and Joey Noel and the other gentleman of Kinda Funny laughing in the background. But if you did want to check that out, again, all of that money is going to a fantastic cause, and of course, the entertainment is going to be spot on fantastic for the entirety of the 24 hours, because there's nothing better than seeing sleep-deprived individuals. It is just great. I've watched it for the past 2 years, planning on doing the same for this year. And of course, again, you can check out everything over there at Extra Life, because there are tons of people that are going to be raising money over the course of the next few days, weeks, months, years, etc. You get the point. People are in need, and people are going to come help. However, what are we going to be talking about on today's episode of Caffeinate? Or, if you do want to get into the mood of the day, Kinda Funny Games Daily featuring Samuel Adams / Greg Miller. Well, there was a bug to the Fallout 76 beta that accidentally deleted the entire 50 gigabytes of the beta. On top of that, Henry Cavill's The Witcher's Geralt has been revealed, and it does not look that great, according to a lot of people. A leak has confirmed with November's PlayStation Plus free lineup being Bulletstorm and Yakuza, if you did want to confirm that rumor. On top of that, Lenovo agrees license with Sony after practically copying the PSVR design. EA raises internal sales expectations for Anthem. Titanfall's developer Respawn has another game coming down the pipe in 2019. Combined NES and SNES sales are very impressive if we wanted to talk about that. And Fortnite has been downloaded by nearly half of all Switch users. And also, I will say to Alan in the chat, I'm Greg Miller of Kinda Funny Games, and also previously of IGN and Podcast Beyond. But if we did want to dive into this news, which includes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stories, a baker's dozen, let's go ahead and dive into it, shall we? First off, a Fallout 76 bug accidentally deletes the entire 50 gigabytes of data. The Fallout 76 beta starts tonight on PC, but an 11th hour bug in Bethesda's launcher has had unusually severe repercussions for some affected users, and this article was written yesterday, which means this all happened last night and people were not happy at all. Earlier this evening, as in yesterday, Bethesda tweeted, "PC Fallout 76 beta players, we are aware of an issue with the client and are investigating. Do not click any buttons on the client for the time being." That's right, the solution to the problem was to not click any buttons. Don't click any buttons? Weird. Turns out the issue wasn't your average freeze. It was a bug where clicking any button on the launch client would delete the entire beta and force users to download the just under 50 gigabyte thing all over again. Anyone seeing this tweet in time would have been fine, but loads of people, of course, wouldn't have. We won't ever know just how many ended up losing their data, but when you're at the point where Bethesda support forums are blowing up, things are bad. A later tweet from Fallout's account gave some specific advice for those affected that says, "We are actively investigating the issue causing PC players to re-download Fallout 76 beta. If you see a progress bar, please allow the download to complete, and thank you for your continued patience while we work to resolve this issue." And again, to recap, if you clicked a button, wait. If you didn't click a button, don't click a button. Last week, Bethesda sent out a letter to fans ahead of the beta, which said, given what we're doing with 76, we know we're opening everyone up to all new spectacular issues none of us have encountered. And they weren't, in fact, kidding. That's real bad. Okay, so to back up, 50 gigabytes of data. That is a ridiculous amount of space, number one, for a beta, number two, to have to re-download. And of course, this was able to be pre-downloaded, preloaded onto your device if you were playing on the Xbox or if you were playing on the PC, of course, this weekend, or yesterday, actually. So I guess that would be a Tuesday, not anywhere close to a weekend, actually was on the PC. And so, to download that, to begin with, is a lot of time for a lot of people that might have slower internet connections or perhaps limited internet connections if they are restricted to how much data they can use in a month. But to do it twice is absolutely painstakingly brutal, and so, needless to say, a lot of people were mad. I will also mention, at the same time as this bug was actively being squashed and people were still suffering from having to re-download 50 gigabytes of data, there was a Fallout livestream happening showing off the game. The chat was not satisfied in the slightest. Very upset people over there, and of course for a good reason. So again, I apologize if anybody happened to be affected by this specific little incident, but of course the beta is going to have bugs, and that's exactly what betas are for. I would argue that this would be 10 times, 12 times, 15 times worse if it had actually happened on launch day. That's what I want to make very clear. If it did happen on launch day, this would have been an absolute nightmare for the PR team, for players, for every developer that worked on the game. That is something that cripples a game that is kind of a game as a service sort of style of game. So again, it's to be expected. There are going to be issues, but this was a big issue that a ton of people did not want to have to deal with, and that's just simply something they're going to have to squash before the official game does end up launching. So as of right now, looking pretty good, and of course, I did watch a bit of the game, and I will say that I was more impressed than I thought that I'd be. So there you have it. That's what I've got going on for you right there. That's my official review of Fallout 76's BETA. And so, if you did want to dive into it, more BETAs, I believe, are going to be held, and the next one has actually been extended because of the issues that have been had. So, of course, you can jump in for, I think, 9 hours next time, between 2 p.m. and 11 p.m. Eastern Time, or Pacific Time, one of the two, and give it a good shot. But moving on to the next story of the day, first look at Henry Cavill's glorious wig in The Witcher TV show. Fabio, is that you? With Netflix's The Witcher series rolling into production, we're getting a first look of Henry Cavill as the show's lead Geralt. As many of you have probably spent hundreds upon hundreds of hours staring at the game version of Geralt, this might feel a bit weird. Just get ready. And don't say I didn't warn you. So again, this is just a makeup test right now, and this is Henry Cavill as Geralt of Rivia. Ooh, that's weird. It looks really Lord of the Ringsy. I don't like this that much. And so here you have Orlando Bloom Henry Cavill in a wig, and he drinks this elixir potion thingamajig, and that's pretty much all you've got coming in 2019. It's very strange. So it's not bad, according to this author, but I don't know if it's good. First off, he looks young as hell. Geralt is old and grizzled, while Cavill, as Geralt, is young and handsome and sexy, and his eyes look deep into your soul, and of course, I'll marry you, Henry Cavill. All you had to do was ask, who is writing this? Matthew Razak. Okay, then. But the point being, it doesn't feel very Geralt to me. Maybe the show will be about a younger Geralt, though the plot descriptions we've read don't hint at that. What we really need to talk about, however, is the wig. I know this is clearly a souped-up screen test, and fantasy movie wigs look terrible in those, but man, this one looks wiggy. I mean, we're not talking Fantastic Four wiggy, but it's definitely not quite up to snuff. Hopefully, when the show rolls around, the flowing locks, hey, that's a good word, will feel a bit more in place. Until then, I think the best thing this look has going for it is the casual swig of whatever drink that is at the end. And again, it is going to be coming in 2019 if you did want to check out the entire Witcher TV series. I do want to say that the reaction on social media has been absolutely brutal, and I kid you not, it's been very bad. Yeah, I want to show off the mug as much as possible because I never get to show people this. But overall, the fact that this is even happening, number one, is something that's a bit shocking to me because I don't know that we need this. The Witcher as a game series does so well in fleshing out this world that I feel like it's going to be a bit restricted by the fact that you do have this kind of closed TV series kind of setup that you've got going on. And so overall, I think that it could be good, it could be bad, but when it comes to Henry Cavill, I'm just not entirely sure if he is the best fit for Geralt. Again, I think somebody more old, chiseled. Some makeup could also do this wonders if you did add a bit more scruff. Now, I will say, according to the official books, that Geralt did not actually like his beard that much. Now, of course, when it comes to people's public perception of Geralt, well, that's a completely different story. They believe that Geralt should have a beard and essentially look just like he did in CD Projekt Red's The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, because that's kind of how everybody knows him. And so, when it comes down to it, we'll see how this is accepted by fans when it does launch. And of course, in general, in 2018, the first impression that fans give is more or less one of those situations where people hate stuff and then it kind of grows on them after a while. And of course, it all really does come down to the acting whenever it gets down to the nuts and bolts of it. But before we move on to the next story, tuning in because I had to see this. It's amazing. Thank you. From Greg Miller to you. It's beautiful. Beyond. But moving on, we have a leak that has been confirmed with the official announcement for November's PlayStation Plus free lineup. And of course, the headliners are Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition and Yakuza Kiwami, if you did want to check that out. Sony has officially confirmed a leak from earlier this month. Yakuza Kiwami and Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition are November's free PlayStation Plus headliners. In Bulletstorm, you play as a disgraced ex-assassin Grayson Hunt on a journey for vengeance and survival. In the end, if you can have both, if you can't have both, will you choose revenge or saving your crew? In Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition, this over-the-top shooter is remastered and includes all existing Bulletstorm add-ons plus exclusive content. Also, Game Informer's Jeff Cork seems to really like it, and that also applies to me, Samuel Adams, not really Greg Miller, but Samuel Adams does in fact enjoy this. The second free title for November, the remastered Yakuza Kiwami, throws you right into the middle of the Japanese underworld as Kazuma Kiryu. Kiryu, formerly a ranking member of the Yakuza, has been released from prison into a gang war. His family ties severed, Kiryu must find the answers to what happened alone. Strangely, Jeff Cork also enjoyed this game, giving it an 8.5 over on Game Informer, which leaves us wondering if Sony is following Jeff Cork's preferences with particular interest. If you're reading this, Sony, he wrote a very positive hands-on preview for Red Dead Redemption 2, just saying. And if you're applying, you're going to get that for free. Let me tell you right now, it's not happening. But along with Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition and Yakuza Kiwami, PlayStation Plus members can also pick up the following titles for free. Jackbox Party Pack 2. Could be good for the Thanksgiving events. Arcado series, have no idea what that is. Burly Men at Sea, I've heard about that, and Roundabout. These games will be available starting November the 6th, which means there's only a week left before the free October games are gone. PlayStation Plus members can also pick up the H1Z1 PlayStation Plus Blue Shift Pack for free until November the 13th if you did want to check that out. And so overall, if you did want to check out what they have to offer over there with your PlayStation Plus lineup, I would highly recommend at least going ahead and adding Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition to your library. It's one of my favorite shooters of the last generation. I think it's incredibly fun, incredibly fast-paced. If you like arcade shooters where it's all just about fun and explosions and slow-motion kicks and stuff along those lines, it's a good time. As for me, will I ever dive into Yakuza? To be quite honest with you, with the Spider-Man DLC and Red Dead Redemption 2 sucking up all of my free time, probably not, but it will be added to the backlog where it rightfully belongs. But as for right now, not really digging into anything else except for Bulletstorm and Yakuza, maybe. However, pretty good games in comparison to what Xbox is offering for games with gold, in my personal opinion. Moving on to another PlayStation-related story, Lenovo agrees license with Sony after practically copying the PlayStation VR design. And of course, it is a 2-year patent licensing agreement. Now, this is very interesting. Before we even jump into the article, I do want to say this is what their headset looks like over at Lenovo. So you've got a pair of earbuds coming out of the side of the device, and it's very much so the PlayStation VR. This is the design model. This is what it looks like. This is the aesthetic. This is everything about the PlayStation VR bundled into one little package that says Lenovo. Sony has officially confirmed a leak, as we just talked about. But moving on, as I said, Sony has signed a 2-year patent licensing agreement that allows Lenovo to use the PSVR design for its Mirage Solo VR headset. Some VR enthusiasts might have expected that from the moment Lenovo launched its standalone Daydream device. While Mirage Solo is self-contained and the PSVR isn't, it does look very similar to the latter. Most notably, it features a headband almost identical to the PlayStation VR's, including its characteristic cap-like portion that's supposed to rest against the user's forehead for optimal weight distribution. The companies didn't disclose the deal's finer details, but Lenovo most likely had to pay up. Riley Russell's words are very telling. Sony's chief legal officer said the PSVR's design is the product of years of hard work by PlayStation engineers and called the deal a testament to its quality. It'll be interesting to see if Lenovo releases a new headset with a different design before Sony revisits the terms of the agreement in a couple of years, but for now, the two companies seem to be playing nice. Yao Li, Lenovo Consumer Tablets and Smart Devices Product and Business Management VP, said in a statement, Lenovo is pleased to partner with Sony. The preeminence of the PSVR design is obvious. This agreement will allow us to work together to greatly enhance the design, sophistication, and appeal of the rapidly expanding VR field and is an outstanding example of how great consumer brands in the VR industry can work together to benefit the consumer VR market. And so, what you have there is a PlayStation VR, again compared to the Lenovo device that is going to be hitting store shelves, I guess, over the next 2 years, according to their licensing agreement. Now, I think this is a weird move from Lenovo because obviously it looks just like the PlayStation VR, but it's cool to see that there is a bond, or at least a connection, between Sony and Lenovo so that this doesn't get messy, because when it comes down to it, in comparison to the PlayStation VR, this thing isn't going to do anything. It's just not in the same market. It's not the same type of device. This is something that is standalone. And when it comes to PlayStation VR, you have experiences that are just on the PlayStation VR that are geared towards gaming. Lenovo's headset is more than likely geared towards light gaming, but 9 times out of 10, these mobile device sort of pieces of hardware when it comes to VR are made primarily for viewing video, and that's pretty much what it comes down to. So although the design is similar, I don't think this is going to be something that is heavily impacting the bottom line of Sony when it comes down to it, and I think that Lenovo might go ahead and reel it on back in and, you know, this might be one you should rescind a bit and then try again later on, but we'll see what happens with VR overall. But of course, Lenovo's new piece of hardware here by the Mirage Solo VR headset name. And again, it is just another PlayStation VR. On top of that, EA raises internal sales expectations for Anthem. They think it's going to do really good. EA is feeling more confident in Anthem's performance, enough to boost its fourth quarter estimates. During EA's quarter 2 earnings report, the publisher gave an update on Anthem and its expectations as far as sales come release. EA said that feedback from its internal test had been positive. In more specific terms, the publisher revealed that it's expecting a 20 to 25% increase in digital full game sales during the quarter, mainly because of Anthem. That's a fair bit above EA's initial expectations, though the company didn't elaborate more about Anthem specifically. It is possible, of course, EA's early forecast was conservative. Anthem is a new IP from a studio whose most recent game was a commercial and critical flop, Mass Effect Andromeda by BioWare. That said, and considering how busy the February-March release season is going to be next year, this confidence must be based on internal metrics we are not privy to. At Paris Games Week over the weekend, EA hosted an Anthem Livestream where a new mission was showed off, and we also got a more detailed look at the Storm Javelin. There could be another Anthem stream this week too, scheduled for tomorrow, though official channels have yet to confirm the details. Anthem is due out February 22nd on PC, PS4, and the Xbox One, and of course there's going to be a demo coming in on February the 1st if you did want to check that out. And so as of right now, it seems like Anthem is going to be doing pretty dang good when it comes to the expectations from EA. Now, will it actually do this well? Kind of up for a discussion. Of course, Destiny 2 is still going strong, and it's not showing any signs of stopping, but I believe that interest in D2 is beginning to wane a little bit, since Forsaken is beginning to kind of get more so kind of inclined to try, other things. And so, when it comes to Anthem, it could be going very well for EA when it comes time for the release next year, but overall, they think it's going to do well, and we'll see what actually does end up coming of it. Of course, around that time, you have The Division 2, you have Days Gone, on top of that, tons of other games coming out around that specific time period, so we'll see what happens, and hopefully things will go fairly well. But to Ray Plays in the chat, welcome on into the show, and we will continue to update you as to how the game is doing when it does launch next February, and of course, I'll let you guys know any major news that comes out over the course of the next few months as we do kind of gear up towards the release of the game. However, a game that I feel like was critically underrated, Titanfall, and also Titanfall 2. They had a developer by the name of Respawn. You might have heard of them, and they have more than one game plan for holiday of 2019. Ahead of EA's call to investors, which we just discussed, the publisher revealed its Q2 earnings, but we also got a teaser about projects currently in development at EA's various studios. Respawn Entertainment, the developer of Titanfall, which EA acquired nearly a year ago, was among the teams mentioned in a prepared statement. According to to EA, Respawn has projects slated for release in the next holiday season. One of those was previously announced, that of course being Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. The game was revealed at E3 in June with a release target of holiday of 2019. This is likely one of the projects EA is referring to, but it's not quite clear yet what other games the publisher is sitting on. When EA bought Respawn in the house, the publisher confirmed the team is working on 3 games, a VR experience, a new Titanfall title, and a new Star Wars game. Respawn's VR game could be another project shooting for a holiday 2019 release. The studio is not big enough to support simultaneously working on Fallen Order and a new Titanfall game, unless of course it's not a fully fledged sequel. EA would also not like to repeat Titanfall 2's release plunder by putting the sequel out close to another big game. The publisher also generally likes to focus on 1 or 2 big games per year. And so right now you've got the confirmation that Respawn is going to be pumping out more content other than the new Star Wars game, and hopefully that means we are going to be seeing a brand new Titanfall. Again, I highly doubt that's actually what is going to be happening because, to be quite honest with you, Titanfall 2 did not do that well. Even though I have a copy literally sitting just a couple of inches from me, I still don't think it deserves a sequel just because of how the sales did. Now, as a fan of the game, as somebody who enjoyed the game, I really would love to see a Titanfall 3, but in terms of how it would pan out critically and also how it would pan out in terms of, as I said, sales, I just can't justify that being an investment that EA was to make, and also how Respawn was to spend their time. They're an incredibly talented team. I want to make that very, very clear. But when it comes down to it, I just don't think it's going to be something that we see them returning to over the course of the next 5 years. And now I do want to say a comment in the chat. Alan says the Titanfall 2 campaign was amazing for a sequel to a game that precursors didn't have a campaign. And so, of course, the original Titanfall was a multiplayer-only game, but going into Titanfall 2, they changed that up, added a campaign where they essentially gave a robot a specific type of connection, almost like a human interaction with the pilot, and that's something that's very awesome, something that made a pretty awesome kind of campaign. I really did enjoy it. And so, again, hopefully we'll see more about this come next E3, which I will be attending. Could be pretty cool. And I will keep you guys abreast as to the newest news coming out of Respawn Entertainment. It could be a pretty exciting holiday season to find more information about this. And also another comment in the chat, 10 out of 10 Beard. Yeah, you better believe it. However, moving on to some more sales news, something interesting coming out of Nintendo. Combined NES and SNES Classic sales surpassed 10 million units, and Amiibo hits 50 million figures sold. The NES Classic Edition and Super NES Classic Edition retro consoles have sold over 10 million combined units, and approximately 50 million Amiibo figures have been sold. According to a newly released Nintendo financial results briefing, combined global sales of the NES Classic Edition and the Super Nintendo Entertainment System Classic Edition have now surpassed 10 million units, and both continue to sell as must-have products, and the fact that they are so affordable suggests they will be in even greater demand during the holiday season. And that is something I would agree with. The phrasing doesn't give much of a hint on whether or not Nintendo plans on releasing an Nintendo 64 Classic. It's a weird way to say that this year, though it is possible we could receive news about this in tomorrow morning's Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Nintendo Direct, or more likely in the following Nintendo Treehouse Live presentation. Rumors about a potential N64 Classic Edition ramped up when Nintendo filed a related trademark earlier this year. Nintendo also boasted the sales numbers of Amiibo figures, saying Amiibo figure total sale through has reached approximately 50 million units. All characters that appeared in the Wii U and Nintendo 3DS versions of Smash Bros. Have been released as Amiibo figures, and on the same day that the new the new Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is released, we, as Nintendo says, will also begin to sell 3 new Amiibo of characters who are appearing in the game as fighters for the first time. And so you have more little screenshots of Amiibos, and so this is kind of a twofold story, I would say. Again, you've got the 10 million mark for the NES and SNES Classic, but on top of that, 50 million Amiibos. It's pretty impressive, if I do say so myself. So if you haven't picked one up yet, again, it's just a miniaturized version of the classic Nintendo consoles. And will we be seeing more info about the Nintendo 64 Classic at tomorrow's Nintendo Direct? Probably not. I would say it's a little bit too late in the year to go ahead and hype people up for that release. I think that if they were going to release a Nintendo 64, they should do that at least 3 months before the holiday season, which again is sort of kind of borderline right now, so it could potentially work, but I think it would be more fitting to announce this maybe in late August, early September, maybe even the summer, because I remember the original NES Classic Edition was revealed very early on before it was released, and of course the anticipation was very, very high, and that's what caused them to sell out, and of course that was in collaboration with low production. So again, a lot of stuff to process here. However, when it comes down to it, it looks like 50 million Amiibos have been sold, the little figure that could, and on top of that, 10 million NES and SNES Classic Editions. And I have not bought a one. Feels bad, man. However, speaking of Nintendo, Fortnite has been downloaded by nearly half of all Switch users. Again, Fortnite has been downloaded by nearly half of every Switch user. Coming from Nintendo's financial briefing, distribution of the Nintendo Switch version of Fortnite Battle Royale from Epic Games began during E3 this past June. Of course, it was launched literally in the middle of the E3 conference, and since then, it has shown up everywhere, not just in the US and Europe, but also in Japan. It has gained so much momentum that it has been downloaded to nearly half of all Nintendo Switch systems worldwide. Again, worldwide. Many people continue to play the game, boosting the overall utilization ratio of the Nintendo Switch, and Nintendo Switch is unique in that people can bring their consoles with them so they can communicate while playing at a friend's house or elsewhere, and that is where the story does end over here on GoNintendo.com. But again, half of all Nintendo Switch users are actively playing, or at least they have downloaded Fortnite on the Nintendo Switch. It's very impressive. Those are some very large numbers. Of course, for those that don't know what Fortnite users are actually getting to be a part of, Fortnite's this Battle Royale game. You might have heard of it. The one that took the world by storm and is one of the most popular Halloween outfits of the entire year this year. It's insane. Hold on. Sip of coffee out of the pumpkin mug. Pumpkin. Never fails me. But, of course, this is something that is due to a couple of reasons. Number one, as we do have Decky pointing out in the chat, 50% of Switch owners are kids, Kappa, over here on twitch.tv/SamuelAdamsLive. I think it's a combination of the younger skew for the Nintendo Switch, but on top of that, it's free. And again, it is one of the few games that you don't have to have a Nintendo Online subscription to play online. They went ahead and forewent, whatever the correct pronunciation of that may be. They went ahead and skipped over that step in the process so that you literally download Fortnite, play it on your Switch, and you never have to worry about having any kind of subscription-based service. And that is something that is fantastic for a lot of people who might not have enough money to throw at a game or at a subscription service. If you have a Switch, you can play every bit of Fortnite Battle Royale. And so I think that is what's really driving the downloads of this game. I think that's what's going on here. But again, we'll see what happens this holiday season. If Nintendo can hit some very large sales expectations, then I would say this number could very well coincide with that increased sales purchasing. I think that essentially when it comes down to it, more Nintendo Switches equals more Fortnite players on the Nintendo Switch. But again, that's just my 2 cents. Still, some incredibly impressive numbers coming out of Nintendo over the course of the past 24 hours. Now, I do want to return back to something I saw earlier in the chat. Decky says Caffeinate is now back on Twitch. That is some news indeed. And of course, this entire week has been the first week back on twitch.tv/SamuelAdamsLive for the live version of the show. But if you did want to check it out on podcast services or on youtube.com/SamuelAdamsMedia, it's available about an hour after the show goes off the air. But of course, for today, this is the final part of the show. I appreciate those that have joined me, Greg Miller, on today's episode of Caffeinate. And of course, I am going to be back on Kinda Funny Games daily starting tomorrow. It's going to be a fantastic time, but I've got to go hang out with my dog, Porty, and my wife, Genevieve Saint-Ange-Miller, and drink out of my pumpkin mug. But I appreciate you guys hanging out, and if you are new to the show, I promise I'm more normal than this on a daily basis, but when it's Halloween, you've got to take advantage of the opportunity. Plus, how often do you get to use mascara on your facial hair? It's just a fantastic experience, but I hope you guys have a fantastic Halloween. Get some of that strawberry candy from Grandma. I saw it earlier in the chat. That's some good stuff. But as for right now, I'm going to go wipe this stuff off of my face, grab some dinner, and probably play some Red Dead Redemption 2. As you should on Halloween. But I love you guys very much. I will be back tomorrow for another episode of Caffeinate, but have a fantastic one, and peace.